The Galipitans make magnificent sweaters. The Never-Ending Sacrifice is the finest Cardassian novel ever written, and Bashir is not in the mood for noisy, crowded, and vulgar today. Hey, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, everybody.
We are also joined by extremely special guest, Mr. Andrew J. Robinson. How are you?
Hello. Hello.
Awesome to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Today we are doing a review of episode 21 of season 2 for Deep Space Nine called The Wire, which many people agree is the coolest Garak episode ever. How you guys doing? All is well?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
All right. Well, that's all that matters. We're good.
The world is, burning, but I'm fine.
Yeah. We're all staying in our little cocoon right now, but it's for the better, I think.
I do want to make
question about
1 second.
Oh yeah, we question about that artwork in the background.
We're going to forget.
Was my question for you. There it is.
Mr. J.J. Lendl, one of the coolest artists that we know, really amazing, really talented, whipped this up for us for this special occasion. Actually, let me get my face out of here so that we could see it for a second. There we go. So this was J.J. Lendl. Check his stuff out. Really cool, super talented. That man, Garak, looks awesome in it, too.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable performance that you gave in this episode, Andrew. I think it was just marvelous. And it just stood out to me how amazing it was. You came out so contextually layered in this with your, who you are in this character, who Garak is.
Thank you, Cirroc. Yeah,
it was beautiful.
No, I was thinking about The Wire today, knowing that we were going to do this, and it's like it's in terms of film performances that there's nothing I'm more proud of than that one. It's like I can count on one hand the performances I've given, and I've said this before that if people discount, or at least the industry, I should say, not people. Our industry tends to discount, sci-fi, stuff like this that somehow,
right,
really good work, and not just acting. I mean, the writing, the Robert Hewitt Wolfe who wrote this episode. I mean, it's those long speeches and the way he balanced them, and the way one progressed to another, and how the stories kind of sort of flowed along. I mean, it's great writing.
Absolutely.
What Cirroc initially said kind of made me think of something, Andy. Do you feel like you got a slightly better grasp of the character upon reading that script? Because it seemed like you had, from the very first episode, a complete 100% grasp on the character.
I thought you fell off your chair, Cirroc.
Yeah, no, it's this stand that I have that is...
Man, you got to stop drinking in the middle of the day. No, but anyway, yes. I'm sorry, Ryan.
That's okay. We're getting a grasp of Cirroc's character now, too.
No, that's perfect. That reminded me. That was something that Aaron would have definitely not let go of by. So I'm glad that you got me.
God.
No, I'm glad you got me. It was a good reminder of the tomfoolery. But no, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ryan.
Not at all. So it did seem like you and others like Renee and Armin, it seemed like on day one, you already had your character fleshed out. And so I was wondering if you felt that way, or if upon reading the script of The Wire, it kind of helped you to get an even better grasp of the character, like more developed.
There's no doubt. I mean, it helped enormously, even though, basically how it helped, ironically, it's like to find the truth of the character with all the lies, and with all the fabrications and all the stories. But again, it comes down to the writing. I mean, I actually had the character when I auditioned for him. And that's why I got the job. And that happens, as Cirroc knows. I mean, that happens so rarely, that you walk into a room and then bang, you hit it, and yeah, it's like, and it's a mysterious thing, you know. I mean, the writing has to be good. I mean, if the writing is shitty, then that, forget about it. But if the writing is good, then there is the chance that you can there's a confluence that suddenly, you know, you and this character sort of like come together in this place, and then bam, you're there. But certainly The Wire, I mean, because there was so much of it, there was so much, you know, and you know, I hesitate to call it information, because he was basically just desperately trying to maintain his cover, and so like there were there were some things that were true, most of it was not true, and he was just delirious in terms of like you know, in how he was trying to cover himself.
Yeah, what I took away from it, because I see you in the first kind of opening of Garak and the introduction of his character. The charm and the wit and the mystery were the things that got me intrigued about who Garak was. You had this charm about you. You had this mysterious kind of what is he about? And in this episode, what I see is even a deeper layer of this. What's troubling you, and you know what's inside, and why you're here, why you're at DS9, how you feel about being there. I mean, you gave one line. I think you said, I thought I was supposed to be the spy," which I really liked the way you.
Right, I forgot about that.
I liked the way you said that. It was like you're starting to seal him, kind of peel back and really reveal, you know, who this character is in this episode.
But it's that the dynamic of like he is revealing, but he's so desperately trying not to, and it's that training that he had. I mean, anybody who's been trained, you know, to like maintain, you know, to the death your secrets, and yet it was. I'm reminded just now. Once I was directing a play. And I, in the middle of during the play, there was a terrible flu epidemic that was going on. The play was in Florida, in Miami, and I didn't feel well that day, and so, but I went to rehearsal, and I'm working with the actors, and I started talking, and this is before Deep Space Nine. This was like in the early, about 1990, and so. We were talking, we were working, and I was talking, and then suddenly I started talking, and I'm 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 talking, and I see the actors look at me, you know, wondering what the hell's going on here, because what I was saying was making absolutely no sense, no sense at all, and I was burning up, but I couldn't stop talking. And that, you know, and that's kind of like what was going on with Garak in that thing.
Cirroc,
you know what I love
saying. I was just gonna say, Cirroc, thank you for not saying that's Ryan every day. I felt it coming, and it didn't. I was like, cool, thanks, man. Anyway, sorry,
that's how I feel working with Ryan. I'm glad you said it for me. Thank you. No, but you know the thing about it is like he's constantly lying, but telling parts of the truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you know, one of the things I learned about Garak was that, you know, I learned people who lie to me, like, for instance, Trump, who's always lying. I mean, who never stops lying. I mean, but so the thing is, what I've learned is that, wow, I can find out about a person through that person's lies. Right. I can find almost more than, can you imagine if Donald Trump tried to start telling the truth? Then I'd get nervous. I think, oh, whoa, Jesus.
Well, you wouldn't believe it either.
No, I wouldn't believe it. I would have no idea who this guy is.
You know, no, but go ahead, Ryan. No, I love the way it kind of peels back. So, and then what about this friendship with Bashir? What you know, I think that there was another line that you said, "Do you think because you have lunch once a week with me that we're friends?"
Oh
And
man,
I love that line.
I did too, and I love because I bit into that line, man. I
Oh
wanted
God,
to make that. I wanted to hurt with that one.
it stung when I heard it. I was like,
Yeah,
God, that's cold.
yeah, no, right. And
I,
that's and the irony, of course, is that's why old Andy Robinson got the job in the first place. It was because they were looking for, a relationship for Dr. Bashir to have.
Right.
yeah, and it turns out, I mean, I just love the way that you guys go back and forth. But I think you can't talk about this without this monologue that you had that just was like just sits in the middle of this episode as like just classic, just the as good as it gets performance that I've seen. So
I know the one. Yes. Yeah.
you know
Oh,
what
no.
I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
don't
I
remember
was
the exact
moved by
monologues,
it.
but I remember when it suddenly broke out. It just
Yeah.
broke out, and I wanted to destroy the set, and it was like it took me all. I don't know what it was. It was like a Dirty Harry moment or something. I mean, I just wanted to tear it all down. And I think Cliff Bowl was the director.
No, it was Kim Friedman.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And just let it go. I mean, it kept the camera. Marvin Rush was on the camera and he was doing his handheld stuff, which Marvin does amazingly. They just let it go. And it was, and it was, again, it was like, as I said, I've never been prouder of anything in my life.
Even more than Dirty Harry, huh?
As much as Dirty Harry.
Wow.
As
Incredible.
much. It really is. I mean, and I don't say that lightly, because it was like, it was, I mean, it took a lot out of me, which those things do, because something, again, it's a mysterious, I don't understand it myself, just something gets, because the thing is that people think we play characters. We don't play characters. We play ourselves playing a character. It's like Cirroc Jake doesn't exist. Garak doesn't exist except on a page. It's Cirroc and it's Andy that you're seeing there. Mm-hmm. And again, when the stars are in the right place and things sort of like line up, suddenly it's like it's you, and it's a part of you that comes through that character that brings that character to life. But it's always Andy and it's always Cirroc.
There's a metaphor there with what you said earlier about somebody that's always lying. You can pick the truth in there. It's almost like as an actor, these lines are kind of like the made up stuff, but yourself, that's the truth
always
that's shining out.
Always. It's the difference. If somebody thinks that they're Hamlet, I mean, or that Hamlet is the person that's performing, and the actor is not there, they're deluded. They're totally deluded. The reason we watch actors is because we're watching that person channel that information that's mm-hmm. called Hamlet, or it's called Jake, or that's called Sisko, or whomever.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, because, us nerds that like to watch this kind of stuff, I do this all the time, where when I watch a scene that was well delivered, or a line that was well delivered, and I'm really impressed by an actor, or they do something different that I didn't expect, I always like to imagine what it would be like if a different actor were delivering that line, or a different, actor were doing that scene or whatever. And that just gets us to appreciate the casting of Deep Space Nine so much more, because it's hard to imagine any actor delivering lines or doing scenes or portraying characters better than the ones that they currently
up and down the line. That cast was perfect, and I think that's. I mean, I think the other shows are fine. The actors were lovely in all the other shows, but this show, man, it was nailed from beginning to end, and especially, my feeling was, with the characters like myself, who were the recurring characters, and Jeffrey and all of the, so many. I mean, that just came through. Aaron. I mean, it was like it was beautiful. It was like a repertory company, really.
Yeah, I'm just still blown away by the complexity of Garak and what he's going through in this stage on this show, and what I felt in the performance. And what I walked away with as I was watching it was I felt somebody who was going through withdrawal. I felt that aspect of it. I also felt the post-traumatic stress of war and then being in that mindset. And then I also felt another thing about this personal thing of just the single act of letting these Bajorans go, right? These children. Yeah. And feeling guilty about letting people live, essentially.
Boy, that was the one. That was the trigger for me, Cirroc. Right on. That's so right on what you just said. And yeah, I come from a lot of alcoholism in my family, and I mean severe shit, and families that were ruined, or parts of our family that were just decimated because of that. And there was frankly, there was a time when I thought I was going to go down that path. So the whole thing about addiction and how it just and people who aren't bedeviled with that particular disease don't really understand just how it once it gets a hold on somebody, it's devastating, and how hard it is, how really tremendously powerful the grip is, and how to get out from that grip, it takes such an act of will.
Yeah, you definitely had a lot to draw from with that.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's, I mean, to piggyback off that, I've had some people very close to me that had addiction, specifically alcohol and other things, and being fortunate that I don't have that gene or that disease or whatever it is, it's really an eye-opener when you can actually see and experience just how powerful something like that is to make people do and say and think and believe the things that it does.
Yeah,
you're right. It's really practically impossible for other people to fully understand it, because it's just not our place to pass that kind of judgment on anybody. But it really changes their perception of everything.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah, I grew up like that. My father was dealing with addiction, and I remember visiting him in rehab facilities and things of that nature, and it tore our family apart. And that's why I understood where this character was coming from so much, because I've seen those kinds of lashing out firsthand. And one of the things that people going through these kind of withdrawals or being confronted by intervention, they really tear at the people that are trying to take care of them most, right? They want to destroy that person.
That's right.
And I felt that here. You came at Bashir like you wanted to make him feel worthless, wasted time. You shouldn't have had any faith and trust in me, and I don't care about you at all.
Yeah, but all the shame you're feeling,
right.
All the shame and the guilt. You just want to get it off me, and
Yeah. So that was just a really impactful thing, and I'm sure that when you go and you do conventions, that people are asking you. I'm sure that people that have dealt with addiction in their own life have questions for you about, how that impacted their life, or maybe comments about how.
No, not really, because the thing about addiction is that it's the shame. You can get past the addiction, but the thing that's underneath that addiction, the shame, is like that's forever. That's always there. That's always like something that has to be dealt with, and so people don't talk about that, That, you know, the people who come up to me and thank me the most are people who are gay, or
Right.
who have been closeted. And because back in the early 90s, like, this was one of the, you know, I mean, certainly in the sci-fi world, this is, you know, one of the few guys who was sexually ambiguous, Garak.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But in terms of the addiction thing, not much. It's interesting. It's interesting you should say that. Yeah.
That's an interesting dichotomy kind of thing there, because back in the day there was that stigma against, you know, the gay community, whereas now that's luckily going away. There's still some, but we're getting better at it. So people are more able to come and talk about it and thank you for it. Whereas the stigma towards, you know, alcoholism and addiction is really hard to get the monkey off their back there, because they feel like they're doing it to themselves or they're doing it to others rather than just.
One is a disease and
Right.
the other is not.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it's like, and so basically, it's the gay person, the person who is, you know, that is who they are. That's, you know, and of course we tried to stigmatize them, as you say, but you know, it's that was just a lie. That was just, you know, ignorance.
Exactly.
But the other thing is, like, you know, yeah.
Well, I do
Anyway,
hope we can.
See, this is what I love. This is what I love about this. This was my education was good. So when I got hired to do Star Trek, I didn't know shit about Star Trek. I didn't watch the original series. I was not interested in it. You know, I didn't know a goddamn Cardassian from a Frankfurter. You know, so, and I thought, okay, it's a gig. You know, they didn't give me Odo, so they're giving me this guy. So fine, we'll do it. And then this was the education. It was the wire that educated me, that made me realize this is a serious place. This is, you know, this is truly worthwhile, because people, you know, the best of Star Trek is when they're talking about issues like this, and when they're getting into it, racism, you know, so many issues, you know, and people are watching it, and because it takes place in the future, there's enough distance between here and now where it's not in your face. You can actually see it and understand that here is an issue. Understand the issue. I mean, that's when I got on board after The Wire. I really did.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Cirroc and I talk about this just about every episode, is that what Star Trek does better than any show that I've ever seen, and possibly anybody's ever seen, is they present issues in such a light and with enough separation, because that's what science fiction does, to allow people to look at things with fresh eyes. And not only that, but Deep Space Nine is aged like a fine wine, in that the issues that it brings up are not only still relevant today, but a lot of times even more so relevant than they were 25 years ago. And this is just another one.
I
was waiting for you, Cirroc.
No, I have to agree. I mean, that's one of the beauties of the show, is that it talks about topics, you know, and when you talk about these kind of topics, you know, it's interesting, because I was thinking back to reading the book, The Diary of Anne Frank. And I remember reading that as part of my,
Great,
you know, required reading in school. But I read about her, and I would read about her story, and being stuck and confined in this house and not being able to leave. And it just comes about, and it just recently, because all of us are going through this thing where we're all having to stay in our house. And I know I'm not trying to compare the, you know,
sure,
the imminent Nazi invasion with what we're going through, but just the fact that, you know, these kinds of stories have themes that are timeless, and all of us have these kinds of stories that are timeless, that just ring a bell no matter where it is and who you are, what you hear it. That's what I mean.
Yeah, no, of course. And listen, it takes a process. I mean, you know, National Socialism, Nazism just didn't spring out of nowhere. It was guys with torches saying, you know, we will not be replaced in Virginia. You know, I mean, there's stuff that's going on now that we really have to be vigilant about, and we have to call out because it accumulates. You know, and especially if we're not educating our children to see, you know, this shit for what it is, then, you know, whether it be anti-Semitism or racism or misogyny, all of it. I mean, then, you know, we let it slide. Homophobia, let it slide. It's okay. They're just faggots, you know. I mean, whatever they, you know, however we can just throw off our own problems and our own pain and our own suffering onto other people. You know,
right.
We have to call it out. And that's what I mean about, you know, episodes like The Wire or Duet, you know, the one
that was the other one we loved very much.
That's right.
One of the first
with my friend Harris Yulin, who I mean, it's like that stuff is important. It's really important because young people see this and they're attracted to the universe of Deep Space Nine or whatever Star Trek universe it is, and then there's something to be learned there. Something is happening that's real.
And you're forced to think.
Hang on one second, Scott. We got to take a quick break. We're going to come right back, and then we'll jump right back on that on the seventh rule.